to a certain point, pardon me, given the fact that they had been parts of these miracles, and now when the next sort of crisis hits, suddenly, they melt again. And I think those are all good conclusions to draw. Seeing, understanding, and remembering. And then we just kind of then talked about, well, how does that apply to us today? And I'm willing to bet you that everyone in this room and everyone online has probably had some experience in your life, either recently or some time ago, that has rocked your faith. I guarantee it. I guarantee it that you've encountered something in your life that has rocked your faith, that has made you question whether, God is really with you or not, or made you really concerned, or maybe anxious or fearful, and God delivered you through that. Hey, somebody said amen. I know it's true for me, right? And you could go down a list of things. It could be a loss of a job, and you're the breadwinner in your household, and you don't know how you're going to take care of your family. Or it could be a health complication, or something that you got that you were very nervous about how it might threaten your life, or deal with your health, or affect your health, and God brought you through that. Amen. And many, many, many other things. So what do we see? What do we understand? What do we remember? If God could do it then, isn't he able to do it again? Are there term limits to his power, his ability? So Jesus, see, understand, remember. So I want you to hang on to that. This is just reviewing as we now move forward into, I should have put this slide up because I'm not, again, this was just raising the question. See, remember, understand, and the application today. So we've already talked about that. Now, this is where we are. Matthew 16, 13 through 20, that passage is cross-referenced with Mark 8 and Luke 9. We'll look at Mark in a little bit. But I want to look at Matthew 16, 13 through 20, and really would appreciate someone volunteering to read that. So Brother Steve would do it. Hang on for me, Brother Steve. I got to cough again before you read. Hang on a second. Got to hit this inhaler one more time. But go ahead. Matthew 16, 13 through 20, please. Perfect. Thank you, Brother Steve. Again, first of all, is this passage familiar to you? Do you remember this? Yes. Brother Gary has a big smile on his face. Yeah, this is familiar to you, right? You remember this exchange. You remember this. It is also, as I pointed out, recorded in Mark chapter 8. It's also recorded in Luke 9. I wanted us to begin with Matthew's account because Matthew gives us a fuller, more complete account of this exchange. And so we're going to look at Mark 2, but I want to do this. I want to lift for us just to consider and talk through at least 3 phrases that come up in this dialogue. There might be some other things on your mind, but I want us to I want to lift a couple things and I want us to discuss them, right? So the first of those, I'm focusing from verse 17 to 19. So one more time for emphasis, 17 says, "And Jesus answered and said to him, 'Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you.'" And again, Jesus is responding to Peter answering the question, who do you say I am? And I want you to notice that Peter said in verse 16, in fact, you tell me, what does Peter respond with in verse 16? What does he say? you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Was Peter right or wrong in his answer when he says, well, who do you say that I am? Meaning you, the apostles. Peter says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Is he right or wrong? Right or wrong? Absolutely. All right, absolutely right, Brother Gary says. And others say he was right. All right, so by Christ, just one more time as a reminder, Christ is not Jesus' last name. Christ is his title or his designation. Jesus the Christ. Gary the shepherd. Right? You know, Todd Brandon the evangelist, right? Or if there are any, you know, if you're a doctor or a physician or whatever, it's his title or his designation. So when Peter is saying that you are the Christ, he's saying, really, you are the Messiah, you are the designated or anointed one by God. For what purpose? To save the world from their sins. He says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. So we agree that Peter is correct. So Jesus in response says, all right, well, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal that to you, but my Father in heaven. And then he goes on to say, and this is the one I want to ask you about, then he says in verse 18, and I also say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. So I just want to pause there. I'm lifting this for consideration. What does Jesus mean when he, upon Peter's declaration that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God, and he says, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. What does that mean?
Jesus is the rock in which our church is built.
Okay. Now Melissa says Jesus is the rock on which our church is built. Do we agree or disagree with that? All right, so I have some heads nodding. I see you. So I agree with you. When I read that statement, it doesn't sound like what you said. All right, I got one ahead of you. I got Steve, and then we'll come to you. But when I read, so now we all said we agree with you, but when you say, when you read what Jesus says, it doesn't sound like what you said.
But Jesus is the chief cornerstone.
All right. Well, Melissa says, yeah, but Jesus is the chief cornerstone. Brother Steve, what do you want to say about this? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to repeat that, and then Brother Gary wants to weigh in, and I think Jared does too. So for those who didn't hear Brother Steve, including those online, Brother Steve says two things here. One is that Jesus affirms that Peter really believes what he's saying here, number one. And number two is that the rock that Jesus is saying he's going to build his church on is the statement or profession of faith that Peter made that Jesus is the Christ. Did I get it right? All right, Brother Gary, what you got?
Well, I've always looked at it as saying this witness or this testimony, or even to go as far as to say this thesis statement that Peter makes is what the church is built upon.
Amen. Amen. This thesis statement, this witness, similar to what Brother Steve said, what Jesus is saying that the church is being built on is the statement of faith and truth that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And the only reason I'm emphasizing it so much is that through the ages, there are some who, and I can understand why, but there are some who have incorrectly believed that Jesus was saying that he's building his church upon Peter. Again, you read that, that's not an unreasonable conclusion. It's just that it doesn't fall in line with what God has said all along about what he would create in terms of the church, right? I got one ahead of you. Jared, did you have something?
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Peter, Cephas, doesn't that mean rock?
Yes.
Isn't that?
Rock or rock man. Yes, sir.
I think it's interesting. Peter gives this confession,
Yes.
and then Jesus addresses him by his given name.
Yes.
Simon Bar-Jonah.
Yes.
You are Simon,
Son of Jonah.
You're Simon.
Yes.
And then he says, "Now I say to you, you're Peter."
You're Peter. Yes.
Like it's like he changes
Love that.
his identity.
Love that.
Identifies him with the church, and then on this confession he builds the church and so on. So
That's a good catch, Jared.
I think the name Peter and what it means, and then the statement, I think people get kind of hung up on that.
I agree with you.
You know,
I agree with you. Jared is pointing out to us that Peter's name in Greek, I believe, is Petros, Petros, which means rock or rock man. Yes, sir. Little rock. And thank you for that. So you have his name Peter, but you have rock, and then he says upon this rock, different Greek word Petra with an A instead of an OS. And again, so Jared's just simply saying, look, that can sort of add probably to the confusion, why there are some through the ages who believe that, kind of Peter's the first, bishop of the church, and Jesus was building his church on Peter. This is all good. Yes, sir.
Well, in today's society, we use a term that everybody loves in business called the mission statement.
Yes.
That's pretty much what was happening right here.
Okay.
But it's also a foretell of what Peter's going to do on Pentecost.
Say more about that.
Well, we know what Peter does at Pentecost. He's filled with the Holy Spirit. And he preaches the first sermon to the multitude
Yes.
where Christianity blossoms.
Okay. Very good. So Ron, very, very good ask to this. So this is good. Again, emphasize this is good comments and good feedback. I just want to make sure that we understand here that what he's building his church on, and again, it's not Peter, but it's his profession of faith. I got one ahead of you, declaring that Jesus